Hey there, Paxzone fam, how's it going for today? We're back here again, talking more TNA wrestling shenanigans, but now I think we can actually start doing some Slammiversary previews because they have actually announced more than one match and more than one thing for the upcoming show. Only, two and a little bit weeks away. Like and I've said before, even 1 month builds, proper 1 month builds, are not nearly enough. And you've had 3 months to build something, but you really haven't really done that. So yeah, like there's been some stuff here that has been built up a little bit. Certainly, I won't say that there's none. But a lot of people are feeling the lack of build. I do feel like there has been a lot of chatter about that here and there, and even I've talked about like a lack of build, and at least a lack of coherent build as well. We had the match with Santana and EY tonight, and I felt like, well, why wasn't this the thing that you were going to build to for Slammiversary? Which I felt like, well, that would going to be pretty underwhelming, honestly. But still, like, why not have a clear cut, this is what we're going to do for Slammiversary, and that's it. You know what I mean? We've already talked about it, kind of, but now it's officially official. Like, it was sort of half announced, like before, on the socials. But now Santana will face Nick Nemeth for the world title. So, unfortunately, I don't know, like, this is I guess it's something of a big match-ish. The only small issue, I guess, here, coming into this match, potentially, is the whole, well, Santana might be leaving soon. That's the only sort of caveat that you can kind of, like, put some level of doubt into the thought of saying, well, this is going to go the other way, so to speak, in my opinion. Because, like, you haven't done nearly enough for Nick Nemeth to seem dangerous enough, or whatever else it is, to Santana, for him to be like, yeah, he's going to beat Santana. So, yeah, I do, unfortunately, feel like that's the only way that I can see that Santana would lose, or only reason I could see that Santana isn't walking away with the title or whatever. Because you've just, like, again, like, I think we talked about this at some points here and there. So I don't think I've got anything really to say, honestly. Like, I don't know. Like, I just, honestly, I struggle to, like, at least, like, I will push back a little bit and try to say, well, at least now this is announced, and perhaps from, like, if you're not, like, watching week to week, month to month, or whatever else it is, and you're a very casual fan, I think, like, them announcing this sort of stuff does resonate a bit more for some of those fans, and it does go, oh shit, Santana's wrestling, Dolph Ziggler effectively. But then again, you've got to remember this thing. No matter how much time TNA has tried to put in, and they did put some time into pushing him as a main eventer last year. They haven't done a lot of that this year. But no matter how much time you've kind of put into pushing him as a main eventer, which again, you haven't done much of, it still hasn't changed that perspective of who Nick Nemeth is. Even if people are still feel like, oh, he was underutilized and underrated and he should have been a bigger thing and yada, yada, yada. That's true, but still people will feel like, hey, well, he never really got to that level. He's not really a main event level guy. And you haven't treated him like a main event level guy in TNA, at least for the last year or so. So again, even with that, people are still going to be like, well, Nick Nemeth isn't walking out of this thing with the championship unless again, you're having something happening with Santana's contract, and again, he is leaving, which I hope he's not, especially with the fact that he's the champion right now. But the thing is, even if he does leave, I don't know whether it's better just to vacate the friggin' belt and say, okay, let's figure it out and let's go from there. Because I feel like that's a better solution than putting it on Nick Nemeth right now, or even putting it on just anybody right now. I feel like it's a much better thing to say, okay, even if you're going to say, let's not have a champion for a few weeks or a month or whatever else it is, I don't know what's going to happen. Again, maybe Santana's going to stay. Who knows? There's so many of those doom and gloom reports out there, and I hate them because they're always the same BS, basically, for the most part. Everybody's leaving, no one's here, they haven't got anyone, yada yada, all the same, bloody talking points, effectively. And to say that, that it is a bit lacking here and there is, fair enough, that's true. But again, just to say they've got no one, and yes, they haven't got, very big main eventers built up right now, but, they could still pull something together if they, actually worked at it, but that has been their problem of late, and we have been discussing that here and there. So, yeah, to say that this is the main event, yeah, this is a snooze main event. I think, the match will be fine, I'm sure, and again, maybe we haven't really heard a lot of teasers about some of the WWE releases yet, but they are there, and I think, maybe sometimes, the fans get it in their mind, and I can get it in my mind too, that surely they have to try to pull something out and bring in some new talent, even if they're quote-unquote older talent. I still think that even bringing some of those older talent or whatever in can be very useful and can be very important and, useful and all that sort of stuff. Because again, you just new fresh faces in a new place, fresh coat of paint and whatnot. So again, you're saying, let's go back to getting these guys to where we need to be with them. So it's one of those things of, the necessity of okay, we need to build things for the next person. All right, I do think we're going to move on now because, like I said, there's a few more things here, some of which we have talked about here and there as we've been going on along the weeks and whatever else that I have thought, hey, that's probably going to happen. This is probably going to happen. There's some that are kind of wait, what? This is happening or whatever. And some of them are a bit well, you need to actually announce what's going on here and make sure people know and all that sort of stuff. So where are we now? They actually announced a few matches, and I want to make sure that I got them all. One of the biggest ones, I guess, is the Hardys in the ladder match. The ladder match with the Hardys against the System and the Righteous. And now I want to make a very clear point about this match, which reflects back to something that I said, whatever it was, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago when the Righteous, first debuted, or months ago, whatever it was, that they said, and I quote, that we're not here for, basically I quote, we're not here for those TNA titles. What did they do tonight? They said, hey, we're here for those titles. Make it make sense, please. You could say, hey, we're not here to fight you, the Hardys, whatever. But if you're gonna say, hey, these guys are never gonna challenge for the titles or whatever because they don't care, then show that they don't care and don't, cross that line and then say, oh, well, now they want the titles. Well, why would they say, hey, we want the titles? Or whatever, especially against a team that is a heel team and they have nothing really against or nothing, no story with, basically, except for when they wrestled that one time at the start of the year. So what's going on there? That's what I mean. This is a silly thing that you've made them say that they will do, or whatever else it is, all this time ago. So why would you do it? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense for them to say that sort of stuff. I mean, you could always say, oh, well, they meant for the Hardys or whatever, all that stuff. Yeah, but still, it's still a lame duck way to sort of say, hey, well, we want that people to forget that, or whatever, or whatnot, whatever. Just forget that. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Yada yada. Let's go. You know, like, that's the thing. Like, you've got to have like a continuity, saying, okay, well, why is that? Why is that? You know, not just, well, we need a match, you know, so here we go. You know, and like I said before, it was like kind of predictable when you said, hey, there'll be a ladder match, you know, all those weeks and months ago, whatever it was, that the Hardys would be in that match, like how and what they were doing and whatever else it was. And then also, like I said before, like, the tag team scene seemed really, really thin, and you weren't really doing anything with the system as a tag team as far as, like, hey, who's going to challenge the system at Slammiversary? So now you're just like, okay, again, you're putting them as the third wheel when they're the champions. Like, you know, so it's one of those things of, well, that really hurts them. You know, that really, like, sets them back for being, you know, the actual, like, thing that people are coming to see or whatever else it is. Whereas if you're like saying, okay, they're the center of attention and they're the focus, the titles are the focus, it's a lot better for them, because again, you're getting that, like, continuity, you're getting that, you know, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, this is where it's happening, this is when it's happening, and this is why it matters. You know what I mean? You're not just, oh, stuff's happening, yeah, there's not really much reason behind it, whatever. But yeah, like, it's a big time match, and again, like, with, like, me saying that there's not much build to this match, realistically, at least for the titles. Like, there's a huge build between, like, the Hardys and the Righteous in many ways, like I said, so that is there. And even if you're a casual fan, again, like, you might not know a lot of that sort of stuff, but at least you're like, the Hardys are there, so I want to see the Hardys, and it's a ladder match. Oh, cool, you know. That's a big time thing. To me, with this, like I said before, realistically, the Hardys, like, have absolutely, like I said before, cemented completely themselves already. And, like, again, their story they don't really need the titles at all. So again, and, like, but then again, like, I would say, like, the thing here is, like I said, like, the main story is about the Righteous and their whole thing and their whole shtick and what they're doing. And maybe, like, they should have said, hey, we want the titles so that we can screw with the Hardys even more, or whatever else it is, so that the Hardys have to chase us, or something like that. You know, things like that. I mean, the system, I said before, like, their tag team reign, is really taking a back seat. They really don't have anything really to work with. And, like, to some extent, I wouldn't be, like, too surprised if they lose the tag team titles, because it is like, well, there's not even that many people to face them. Like, so it starts becoming like, well, why not put it on the Righteous and at least have the Righteous Hardys thing feud, you know, culminate at Bound for Glory, or at least go through Lockdown and at least do some other stuff, and maybe a final deletion sort of match at some point, or whatever else it is that you're going to do. At least you're going to have that time to try to do something else, or at least I hope you're going to have that time to do something else. I don't really trust them sometimes anymore, because it's just like, we'll run this out until, like, the Hardys leave or whatever else it is, and or just, like, full on retire or whatever else it is, and then we'll just go and pick up whatever other tag. Maybe, like, again, there's a few tag teams on the indies and whatnot that they could pick up, not just young tag teams, but like established tag teams. I also already talked about that some of the WWE releases, some of them are tag team wrestlers. I mean, like, I don't really think that the New Day is potentially coming to TNA. I feel like they're unfortunately probably AEW bound because, like, I'm about to say Xavier Woods, but I can't remember his name. Is really big friends with Kenny Omega and whatnot, so there's that connection. So, and like, he was in TNA at one point a year ago, but I don't know. But like, the problem again becomes like they're very old hat, and like almost everyone there they've had a match with except for like Kenny and the Bucks, pretty much. So that would be pretty much the only real thing that you could do with them there. Whereas if you brought them into TNA, and maybe, like I said, I think the Motor City Machine Guns have got released recently from WWE as well, so they could be back in TNA. But then again, I would feel like they're just even more likely to go to AEW because, again, they've pretty much done everything they can do in TNA. They could do something in AEW and, you know, sort of round out their career in some ways by holding, you know, the TNA titles, the I think they held New Japan titles, both the New Japan titles, and the WWE and AEW titles. So that would be a big, you know, sort of thing that no one else has kind of achieved. So that'd be kind of cool for them. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of other things going on with that. So I do hope that if there is any chance of them coming in, that they do come in even for a short period of time or whatever. So, yeah. But no, like, I can't see if anyone is winning this match by any way or whatever, then it's really the Righteous, because even though this is a ladder match and you think, oh, well, that's the Hardys, you know, thing or whatnot, so it's their time to shine. Yeah, to some extent, I understand that, but, like, realistically, again, like I say, like I've said this so much, and I'm going to have to keep saying it so many times as well, but still, you've got to look ahead. You can't just keep looking. The Hardys are cool. The Hardys are great. The Hardys are here. So we'll keep going with the Hardys. Yes, you can keep using them, but they need to be used in a manner of putting everybody else pretty much over. So that, again, you have teams to go to after they're gone or after they're retired or after whatever else situation it is. You cannot rely on them forever. So, and again, you've got, like, young teams, Jason Hotch, John Schuyler, the Good Hands. They just, like, John Schuyler, no, it was Jason Hotch there the other day, posted a thing there on Twitter saying, you know, however many days it was ago that they got a title opportunity, and they've been there for 5 years or whatever it's been. So, and again, like I said that with, like, Harley and a couple of, oh, not Harley, with the, what's her name? With Myla Grace, rather, sorry. And a couple of other people like Danny Luna and whatnot, they left because they were like, dude, we've been here for ages, and you've, again, dangled that carrot in our face, and you haven't actually delivered on it. You know, so you need to deliver on some of those carrots, and I understand some people, again, like Xia Brookside, who's been around for a long time as well. It's now she's finally getting some opportunity. And I think we already talked about the Knockouts title match, so we're not going to touch on it much again here. But again, like, she's been around for a long time, so she's finally getting an opportunity, or another opportunity. First time in years that she's getting an opportunity. I think the last time she had an opportunity was, like, last year when, well, it was before Ash was champion, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, yeah, because Ash was only champion for like a few weeks or whatever it was. Plus, again, like I will say, like I said this somewhere else as well, that like Laying Lee, her first reign was only like a couple of months or whatever it was long, and she won the title after a couple of other people had only had a couple of month runs, and then Ariana had only a couple of month runs, and now Lee has had barely a month of run. And now it feels like, oh, this run's coming to an end. So it's like serious hot potato action over there. Even if I'm like, I don't love the hot potato, I still feel like, well, then if we don't change the title, what did we do this whole freaking basically story for that was basically 6 months or whatever else it was? So I don't know, but still. Anyway, we'll move on now. Eddie Edwards versus Moose. This is a big match. It's Moose's return match. This is I said this before, this is in Boston. This is Eddie Edwards' hometown, so it's a bit weird with Eddie being the hometown guy. But I felt like before, like I said before, like you have to be building something to lock down with these guys. I feel like you've got to have Moose almost form like Avengers level kind of team to go up against the system. People that have, like Leon, that would make some amount of sense because he's been going up against the system for the last, like, whatever year or whatever it's been, especially, like, Cedric Alexander. So, again, like, I don't know whether I said who I think was going to win the Ultimate X. No, I said, like, Cedric would win, didn't I? I thought that Cedric would win. So, again, that's another reason to say, let's postpone this. Let's postpone this. This isn't the end of this feud. I mean, I don't think you're going to finish it at Lockdown or whatever in Chicago. I mean, like, is that going to happen at Bound for Glory? I don't know. At a certain point, these guys have had so many matches against each other. It is that thing of, like, well, time to give it a rest and time to move them apart and time to give somebody else the time to face these guys, because again, you cannot keep relying on Moose and Eddie Edwards being the top guys. They are top guys, absolutely, and they've still got, well, I guess Moose has probably got a bit more in the tank than Eddie, but then again, I don't know. Moose has said, like, he's probably retiring after this contract ends, which isn't very long, I don't think. But then again, it might be longer than... He might get re-signed, who knows? We'll wait and see, because things do change. But then again, he has had some serious injuries over the last few years, so that is, like, I guess, lowering it a little bit. Again, I don't want to put too much into that and thinking, oh, he'll be here for 5-10 more years or whatever it is. But yeah, who knows? But still, I do feel like at a certain point, like I said, these guys have done everything that you can do with them, pretty much. So there's no real point, like I said, and this is the thing that a lot of wrestling promotions do, where it's just like, yeah, but this is a big match for a big show, so I understand why you're doing it in that regard, and there is a story there. But, like, yeah, unfortunately, I feel like this is just Eddie's going to win somehow, some way, even with, like, the system interference and whatever else. Because, again, I feel like you've got to do something at Lockdown between these two and, the two teams. So maybe the Hardys versus... I don't know. That doesn't really make that much sense because it's like... Then you would feel like, well... Yeah, like, shouldn't the Hardys be... in some other match, or whatever else it is, against the Righteous. So again, maybe that doesn't make sense, but still. But that makes it more like, well, let's have it more about the Righteous and the Hardys, so maybe the Righteous are winning. I don't know. But still, I don't know. But yeah, like, I just don't see, even if this match is going to be good or whatever else, it's not 100% predictable, but I just feel like with Slammiversary leading into Lockdown and then leading into Bound for Glory, like, you're really wanting to save, like, some of this feud till Lockdown, because, like, then if you get to Lockdown and you don't have part of this feud still going, it's like, well, what else are we going to do? You know what I mean? Like, you still have stuff with Santino Marella and that whole thing with him and Daria Ray, and I still feel like there's going to be that, control for TNA sort of thing going down at some point. Has to be. Like, one thing about that sort of stuff is as well, like, I feel like, unfortunately, Santino is kind of a guy or a person that WWE kind of wants because they've got his daughter there. So I think they really kind of want him back in WWE, which is, like, crazy to say because they just, like, threw him away and said, piss off, you're worthless or whatever, pretty much. For the most part, as politely as possible, I guess, in some ways. But still, yeah, I just don't know. I don't know because, like, again, it feels like, well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it would sit weirdly with me to think like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But yeah, I think we just better move on because there is a couple of other matches to talk about. I'm going to talk about, I suppose I will actually talk about this one next because it is here and it does exist and it is a thing. So Ricky Sosa versus Eric Young. I've gotten really nothing to say about this because like before Eric Young, and I think this was because of the visa issues and whatnot. Again, we've talked about it. But, and there's actually some stuff going on behind the scenes with Ricky, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I feel like this match, even if I don't really think Ricky could win in some ways, I feel like he should win. You know what I mean? Because, I don't want to disrespect EY, because he's an absolutely seasoned veteran. And he's amazing, and he's talented, and he's got so much, he's still amazing at this stage in his career, and I know he wants to keep going. But the thing is, dude, again, this is your role. Your role is to get these young kids over and help them get to the next stage. You know what I mean? And maybe, you could say, oh, well, this will build to something at Lockdown, or whatever else it is. Sure, I guess, but I feel like you still build that there and give Ricky the win. You know what I mean? And then maybe have EY even win at Lockdown. I don't know. And then maybe you do something with them at Bound for Glory. I don't know. But still, that's starting to make it a really long feud. And I don't know what else you can kind of do to keep spicing it up. And there's just other things to be done. And I feel like, again, Ricky would be better served doing other things with other people at a certain point. So, but I don't know. Again, I just think it's fine. I just think, the match will be good. The match will be all right. It'll be very good. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Ricky really needs to win because, he hasn't had that many matches in TNA. But you've got to start establishing him. And you've got to start going, okay, well, what are we going to do with him? Because we've got to make him look like the next big star so that, he becomes the next big star sort of thing. So, but yeah. Last match on this one. And I think there's some matches planned for next week, so I will quickly go through them before I talk about them because they may well impact this next upcoming thing. So we'll talk about it. Mike Santana and Nick Nemeth Casey Navarro versus Mustafa Ali and the Great Hands. So stuff there. Ricky Sosa's in action, so he's winning. King's speech between Cedric Alexander and Leon Slater. So again, like I said before, there's barely been anyone else in this X Division title picture, and you've got 4 unknowns in that. Really, you need to be getting the other people that are going to be involved in that, so that at least there's something there for them to be okay, you're here, you exist now. and you'll be probably forgotten about whatever afterwards, but whatever. Elena Black versus Indy Hartwell, like, okay, sure, but, like, what's this leading to? That's what I keep saying. It's like, what are you going to do with these two? And I mean, maybe you're going to do something with them at Lockdown. Maybe they're going to be on opposing teams for Santino or something like that. Like, actually, I was thinking, like, of not like a single match, but more of a Survivor Series style kind of match where you have all these participants or whatever, maybe like the Bound for Glory series almost, where, like, it's one team versus another team, but they all don't wrestle at the same time, sort of thing. They all have these qualifying matches, and whoever wins the most qualifying matches and gets to the end wins for their team, effectively. I mean, that'd be more interesting, like doing something else. But then again, that takes up a lot of matches. So unless you're like only going to have like the semifinals and the finals in the cages or whatever else it is, and the like build up matches in advance, or maybe like you're just going to be like, okay, well, let's have like whoever wins gets the advantage for their team or something like that. At least like something. That way you're getting something going. I don't know. But anyway, Moose and the Hardys versus the System. So yeah, like there's a few things going on next week that could, like, there are some big matches happening next week. And like you're putting, like you just put Casey Navarro in the main event tonight, which was pretty cool. So you're starting to be like, okay, let's put him in there. And I feel like now that, you know, you're putting the great hands in there with Ali, you're kind of maybe putting that as the main event. Maybe. I don't know. But like maybe the Hardys and Moose versus the System is the main event. I don't know. It's one of those two, certainly, because the rest is like, yeah, whatever, pretty much. So yeah, but still, I feel like anything involving the world title automatically pushes it a little bit more to the main event sort of thing. And like you're starting to build this program now between Nick Nemeth and Mike Santana. So that's really where you're going with this. I felt like if you had looked at this and said, oh yeah, this match is happening, and you didn't have the context of saying, oh, Nick Nemeth and Santana are going to wrestle against each other, then you'd probably say that Order 4 might lose. But then I feel like you're going to have, you know, Order 4 prevail potentially in this one. But then but the real tension here has to be between Nick Nemeth and Mike Santana. So I don't really think, I think maybe like Santana, or like we already saw Nick Nemeth kind of not turn his back, but like send a little bit of a message there saying, hey, this is about the title or whatever else it is. So even if I've called my shot and in advance and whatever else it is, you still can't turn your back on me or whatever else it is. That sort of thing. So that's got to be like the message going in some regards. But yeah, with Moose and the System whole match, I feel like there's not as much there with that. It's really just a match to move things along and to keep things going and whatnot till you get to that match at Slammiversary. So, but yeah. And the Hardys have had that match like in their back pocket for a long time. But anyway, last match that I'll be talking about for now, and maybe we'll look up, because there can't be too many more things, because we've got the tag team match, right? We've got the world title match. We've got the Knockouts title match. We've got the Knockouts tag title match. The only title match that we haven't really got, the only match that we haven't fully got is the X Division title match. But the only match that we haven't got like slated is for Ali, and I don't really think that there's many other feuds and many other stuff going on. So, but anyway, the last match is the Elegance Brand versus Demon Bunny, Rosemary, and Ali for the Knockouts tag titles. And I 100% feel like, you know, Demon Bunny are gonna win these titles. They basically need to win these titles at this point. because like there's basically no one else in this division, and at least like changing the titles changes up some of the things going on, and at least gives you something to work with for a little while. I mean, like, again, maybe you could have them retain and have it go to, you know, lockdown and have them win at lockdown. Maybe that's better. I don't know. But again, I do feel like at some point they are definitely winning these titles, and, you know, that's going to be that, you know, so, yeah, I don't know what you're going to do after that, really, because again, like, there's basically, again, no one else in the division. And again, I do kind of want to actually have at least Ali, more so, I guess, kind of sit down and say, hey, this is why we're coming for these titles, or whatever else it is. This is what it means to us, you know. And actually, I kind of feel like you should almost be more real with it. You should almost like let Rosemary break character and say, you know, we've been here for, I don't know, like a long ass time, and we've done many things in this business, and it does seem like this run will come to an end soon, but when, we don't know. But we want to have one last hurrah sort of thing, you know, and that begins here. That's this. This is what this means to us. Again, like, without that sort of like, and maybe you'll do that at closer to when they're winning, but like, without that extra context, without that, like, fans can imply a lot of things, and they probably do know a lot of things in regard to it. But again, having it said and having it clear on TV, especially for, you know, packages later, is so good and so much more important. So you need to have that at some point. I don't know whether you're going to do that now or when you're going to do that or whatever, but still. But yeah. So, but yeah. I don't know. I said before, like, it does feel like there's a lot of, like, conflicting ideas on what you're gonna do. And perhaps there is that, like, issue again where you're like, oh, yeah, too many things, too many cooks in the kitchen type thing issue. But yeah, it is what it is at a certain point. These are the matches that we're gonna see, for better or for worse. And Slammiversary is gonna be what it's gonna be. So now, at least now, let's get ready, let's get set, let's get going, let's get hyped for this show, and let's see it, man. Like I said before, like, now you've actually got most of your card together. It's like, well, now people, even though like the X Division title match isn't fully fleshed out, and you don't know what you're doing, or we don't know what you're doing with the international title. Apparently it's just going to be Ali defends against random entrant, you know, like, so it's going to, like, I feel like that could be a WWE or ex-WWE, you know, debut or whatever else it is, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, beyond that, I do feel like there is that like, you know, what else would be on this show to draw people in, which are like the bigger stars, the bigger matches, the bigger stuff. And there's not much there that I could really think of right now. So, and that's a small problem with the roster and some of the things going on with it as well. We really need more stuff to work with. But then again, the problem is also, well, you also just need to give the guys that you've actually already got stuff to work with. You can't just keep saying, let's bring in some random, you know, former WWE person, like I said before, for no real reason, and then we're not barely going to use them, and we're barely using the people that we've got. You know what I mean? It doesn't work. So yeah, hopefully they won't do too much of that. Like, if they bring somebody in, at least hopefully they'll get a short run of doing stuff here and be important. I do feel like as I said before, we will just have to wait and see with a lot of things. And I cross my fingers that Santana or whatever you're gonna do is gonna be like, okay, at least this will tide us over until X, Y, and Z point or whatever else it is. So let's hope that that's what happens and that it all works out. And like I said, I want, and a lot of other people have been here for a long ass time and want the best for this company. We want this company to be at its best. We want people to be tuning in and saying, oh my god, TNA is awesome. Tune into TNA. I just watched their last show. It was awesome. You know, not to say that they haven't had some awesome stuff happening and things like that. They have had some good stuff happening and whatnot. But again, you need to get these things, and at least now you've got some of these things together, but you should have had them together, over a month ago. You know what I mean? And yeah, there's been a lot of little things that have been like, well, why doing this? Why are we doing that? When you could have done it this way, or you could have done it that way and saved some time or whatever else it is. Because again, this feud or that feud or whatever should be between this person and that person. Or whatever it is, for the most part, at least. So, yeah. Anyway, I think we've covered pretty much everything here. And I don't know what else they're gonna do for the show, like I said. So, I mean, a lot of, we talked about it a long time ago, that there was a lot of rumors with Bayley coming into TNA potentially. Last year, I think it was, or even maybe the year before it was, that there was a lot of rumors of Natty Neidhart coming into TNA at several points, I think, along that year. Or was it before that? I don't know. I don't remember when it was. There's been a few rumors of people from WWE potentially coming to TNA and stuff like that. But it's never, in a wrestling capacity, besides the NXT stars, that's never happened. It's never happened, not even once. AJ's appearance, I think at Genesis, was it? No, it was at Slammiversary first, wasn't it? Yeah, that wasn't meant to be a match. But his appearance at the first live AMC show was meant to be a match. And WWE got cold feet on that and said, no, he can't do that. No. And then, it didn't happen. So it was just turned down to an appearance, So, yeah, I think that, again, and that's why a lot of the WWE and TNA partnership has sort of cooled off over the last few weeks and months and whatever else, and we've talked about that too. But yeah, I don't expect, and especially with WWE basically having a show on the same night, I feel like this partnership is pretty much just over, because Carlos Silva was complaining about AEW, doing this sort of thing to TNA and wrecking their bookings and things like that and whatever else. Bro, you've got to look at WWE and say, okay, well, you've done that to us now. Now, you really didn't do that to AEW. If you wanted to hurt AEW, you should have just sent some of your wrestlers our way and helped our show be bigger and better and badder and yada yada and all that. But you didn't. You said, oh, well, we'll just try and oppose AEW. But in opposing AEW, you're opposing us. So that doesn't help us. That just hurts us. I don't think many more tickets of late have shifted since the last time we sort of checked in. Let's see if I can find WrestleTix and have a quick look and see. TNA. Some of these are, so this is for Slammiversary. Available tickets. Distributed tickets, 1,300 36. So this was on the 7th. So is that the latest? Yes. No. Oh, this is the AMC. I don't know. That's an AMC taping. Yeah. That's another taping of some sort. So I'm mainly looking for Slammiversary just here. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's been any updates of late, so there's quite a few tickets left for that show. Boston, get your asses there. If you know somebody, tell your friends. Sell, what is it? 176 seats or more. We need to fill this bitch out, and at least now, like, maybe tickets will start moving a little bit more. I know tickets really start moving on the day, and whatnot, but yeah, at least some tickets hopefully will now start moving, because now they've actually announced, hey, this is what you're going to see. This is what the main event's going to be. This is what most of the undercard's going to be. I don't know what's going to be on the pre-show, but, like, 9 times out of 10, it really doesn't matter. Maybe you'll get a few surprise. I mean, like, actually, I know what's going to probably be on the pre-show. They're just going to have Busted Open guys talking for, like, a full frickin' hour and basically nothing else. So, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Beyond that, I think that's pretty much it for this one here today. So, yeah, we don't really have much more to cover right now, but obviously we'll check in next week, which I believe, where are we at? Where are we at? Sunday 28th is the date for it. So it won't be next week being the go-home show. The week after will be the go-home show. So we've got 2 weeks and, like, 2 days to go before Slammiversary. So we'll have a couple of more updates. I mean, like, maybe, and then we'll see what happens on Slammiversary, and then obviously we'll have the recap and the review of the show afterwards, and then we'll be looking at lockdown and what's going on and what's happening there, and then then Bound for Glory, and then probably Genesis early next year. Which, it's crazy, guys. The year goes so fast, so quickly sometimes. It's mad, but I do enjoy, like, it in some ways, because, again, at least you don't get a lot of time to get bored sometimes. So yeah, but anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope you'll all be good and safe, and join us again in another one.